Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So, tonight I want to talk about this explosive pattern that Bitcoin is following that may lead to a 750% pump. Okay? And it does relate to what's going on. It has a lot to do with what we're seeing right now with distrust in banks and all that good stuff. So, let's talk about it. And let's talk about what Elon said today about the upcoming rate hike, what his feelings are, and let's talk about other crypto news. So let's get started, guys. Welcome. I'm starting out with CNBC. Today actually was a pretty good day. Pretty good day overall. Bitcoin pretty good, still hovering around 28, although we were a little bit higher this morning. Tomorrow's looking good, but you know what's not so good? Are the banks. Banks are still struggling hard. Just a week after JP Morgan and 10 other banks deposited $30 billion into First Republic, they are still suffering. They sold off 47% today. They seem like they can't be saved. That is why JP Morgan is advising them on strategic alternatives, including capital raise. What that really means is that JP Morgan is advising them how to go bankrupt and how to sell themselves for pennies on the dollar. One of the two, okay? Because at this point, they have lost the faith of the people, of the investors. It is on a downward spiral right now, and it is not looking good. It's not looking good. Right? And, people thought that Luna was bad. Well, this is what First Republic looks like, their chart, So here's the thing, if you think about, not that I'm defending Do Kwon by any means, but, if Do Kwon makes his project fail, Luna, right? And he's wanted by authorities, and he's on a run. Why is it when like First Republic goes under or Credit Suisse goes under, the CEOs are not being hunted by authorities and being thrown in jail, right? What's the difference there? Banks are protected. Maybe that's why. It makes you wonder, right? How come a crypto project goes under? The leader is wanted for fraud and jail time. Yet a bank goes under. Those CEOs and CTOs and CFOs goes and finds another job and still gets a giant golden parachute. Doesn't seem quite fair if you think about it. But anyways, banks are still not looking good, especially First Republic. FDIC and the Fed and everyone else still has this in the back of their mind, including Credit Suisse out of Switzerland. They just got sold to UBS. Seems like a bullet has been dodged, but really, did the bullet get dodged? I mean, the National Bank of Switzerland just gave them a $54 billion injection. That seems to have gone away, right? This morning it was reported like $13 billion of bonds disappeared. I mean, all this money just disappeared left and right. Let's not forget the inflation it's going to hit the people of Switzerland pretty soon. But here's the irony, just 5 years ago, the CTO then called Bitcoin a giant bubble. Did not like Bitcoin at all. And here's the thing. At that time, Bitcoin was only at $7,000, right? Despite the fact, you got to give him credit. Bitcoin went up to 20,000, dropped back down to 3,000. Yes, went to 14,000, dropped to 4,000. But here we are. After settling at 69,000 and coming back down where we are, right? We're 28,000. But still, this is why you play the long game. Bitcoin could be volatile at times and may be discouraged by some of these giant bankers. But ultimately, Bitcoin will win because Bitcoin can't be controlled and inflated, and you can't just mint, trillions out of thin air with Bitcoin. You can't, right? Unlike all these banks that are highly leveraged, overplayed their hand, and now they're all asking for bailouts because they're deemed too big to fail. and trillions are being printed by the Fed and central banks around the world to try to save them real quick, right? You don't have this problem with Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin continues forward. It gets stronger every single cycle, right? And we're seeing more of that right now. So that's the irony. That's the irony, right? But of course, there's a lot of other things going on right now in terms of macro stuff, not just bank failures, right? We got this big FOMC meeting that's coming up. Still, as of right now, tomorrow the meetings go start, and then Wednesday we're gonna get that press report. Press conference. And right now it's predicted at 27.7%. I don't know people. I don't know how many people are actually voting this, to be honest. I don't know how many analysts are contributing to this. But 27.7% of the analysts think that it's going to be 0 basis points, and 72% think it's going to be 25 basis points. But you know what? Someone chimed in. Actually, not someone, two people. First, Bill Ackman says that the Federal Reserve should pause on Wednesday because we had a major shock to the system. We had 3 major banks closing, and then we have Credit Suisse that is also, that basically collapsed but was saved, right? So basically, Bill Ackman, who's a famous investor, obviously a billionaire investor, thinks that it should be 0. But Elon chimed in and said, hey, it shouldn't be 0. They should just cut 50 basis points, okay? Is Elon trolling? Sometimes he does, but honestly, because of the insight that Elon has with supply chain and manufacturing and distribution and production and sales and all that stuff, right? I think Elon has a bit more insight than most of us do, right? So I think he's half trolling, but half serious too. But basically, the consensus is the Fed has gone too far, okay? With the banks failing, that means something serious is going on. That's why I've been saying since last week, or maybe even a week before, that this next one probably be 0. I still think it's going to be 0. I think Fed Chair Powell is going to take this very seriously. I think he's going to take this very seriously, which means on Wednesday when we get that press conference right around 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, even before we'll get the results, and then he has a press conference and answer Q&A. But I think it's going to be 0. I think it's going to be 0, and it will be marvelous for all markets for now until people realize we still have inflation and still robbing people of their buying power, and all this money that was created out of thin air to save the banks, there's repercussions for that, either through more taxes or through more inflation. So inflation may be more transitory or less transitory than Fed Powell originally thought. So there's that. But going to Bitcoin, right now, it seems like Bitcoin and gold are both skyrocketing. Well, I take that back. There's only one that's coming out. The other is kind of slowly moving. But both are seen as hedges against inflation, store values. That's why both are doing pretty well. But here's the thing. Gold had its greatest climb back in the day, back in the 70s. Oops, that's not what I want. This one right here. Gold had a huge run back in the 70s. That was the heyday or decade for gold. And at one point, if you look at number 4 to number 5, that rally went up 750%. 750%, right? But if you look at the two, they're looking very similar. This is a fractal pattern that's very, very similar. And the reason why this is relevant, obviously, 50 plus years later, is because Bitcoin is coming to its own. It's starting to mature. It's starting to be seen as something legitimate that people can park their money into. Didn't happen before in 2017. Didn't happen before in 2014, the previous cycle tops. But it's starting to happen now. And that's kind of like how gold was back in the day. I mean, gold has been around for thousands of years, obviously. But it went through these phases, these decades, where it really picked up steam because people started recognizing that gold could be a great store of value and a hedge against inflation, especially when things come down. Until it got to a point where I guess it was maybe too manipulated or too much paper stuff came out, right? And that's why we're stuck at like 2,000 gold forever. But my point is this. If Bitcoin follows the same pattern, right, we could see a 750% climb in the near future. And when I say near future, that could be the end of 2025 after the next halving event, right? Could that happen? Of course. Even people are predicting 1 million Bitcoin in 90 days. I don't agree with that, but you know, who knows? Here's a good chart comparing Bitcoin to gold to NASDAQ for this year. NASDAQ is currently down 15% for the year. Gold is up about 5%, which is not bad. Obviously, 20% better than NASDAQ, so that's good, right? But Bitcoin is up a staggering 56%. So this is why gold is known as pharmaceutical gold. I mean, this is why Bitcoin is known as pharmaceutical gold, because it's better and it certainly moves faster and is starting to mature. It's still small. The market cap is way smaller than gold, right? That's why you want to get into something early, right? That's where most of the gains come from. So that's definitely Bitcoin at this point. And there's so many people that are starting to really recognize it. Even Mike McGlone from Bloomberg is saying that there's a fundamental paradigm shift as people are recognizing that the banks can't be trusted and they're falling, right? Again, a lot of people recognized this in 2008, but Bitcoin wasn't around. There was an alternative. You either parked in gold or nothing, right? Basically one or the other. But now you have Bitcoin as an option. So, fantastic stuff. Really good stuff. And this guy right here basically pinpointed, based on previous cycles, how high Bitcoin can go this time around from its current level, right? Go to 60,000, that's being very conservative. 110,000, 170,000, maybe a little bit more, 200,000, right? Regardless, you don't want to miss this recovery, this pump, this next all-time high, right? Don't want to miss that. You certainly don't. And here's the interesting thing. I have my camera off. Yeah, I just realized that. Here's the interesting thing. You know, I've been stressing about DCA. I'm glad that someone put the two together. Here's the thing. If you've been buying, DCAing into Bitcoin every single day, even if you started at 69,000, let's say your very first buy was at 69,000 and you've been DCAing every single day since then, you are actually positive right now. You actually have gone back to zero and flipped to the upside. That's the power of DCA. Even though we are only at 28,000, even if you started at 69,000, you would be up right now. That is the power of DCA. And I've been telling you guys that DCA is a proven strategy that really outperforms everything over the long term. Short term, yes, you could trade. Yes, you could outperform it. But long term, DCA is the way. So this is quite amazing if you think about it. We are less than half from our previous peak, yet you would be in the green right now. Now imagine you keep DCAing and it goes back up to 69,000. How much higher, right? Or how much more percentage up you would be. I mean, it would be astronomically higher. All very, very positive. Very positive. All right. That's what I want to say about Bitcoin. There's two other projects, crypto projects, I do want to talk about. One that has been pumping and it absolutely dumped today. And another one that's been pretty stagnant. But I think both of these have potential. So who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Immutable X and Polygon, who today announced a big partnership in terms of Immutable X adopting Polygon's new ZK EVM. That's really what this is about. Immutable X is a layer 2. They have their own scaling solution, and they partner with Polygon because they feel like ZK EVM is a game changer, and they want to expand their Web 3.0 gaming ecosystem. Okay, so this was hyped up a little bit. Immutable X has been going up quite a lot over the week, and today it absolutely dumped due to this, which I get and I don't get. Because honestly, if you look at this, this is a bigger win for Polygon, because Polygon has been hyping up their ZK EVM for quite some time. It's the very first solution to truly scale the virtual machine of Ethereum and make smart contract calls basically gasless and extremely fast, right? And Immutable X just simply doesn't have that. A lot of other projects don't have it. So I do imagine that in the future, there will be a lot more layer 2s that will adopt ZK EVM. That's basically what this is, but people just took it as a really bad thing for Immutable X somehow. But it's really not, because I think Immutable X, they do have a large amount of games, especially NFT games, because that's what they that's kind of like their bread and butter. Immutable X has something called Immutable X, which is their kind of scaling solution, which allows them to basically mint NFTs. You could do as many millions of NFTs for free. Okay, that is their like bread and butter, and you can mint all this stuff without paying gas fees. But they don't really have a solution for scaling virtual machine, which is why they're partnering up, and now they call it Immutable ZK EVM, which is from Polygon, right? So that's why they did it. That's why they did it. But there's a ton of gamers out there. There's a ton of Web 3.0 games coming into the space. So I think both of these projects are really positioned well, especially Polygon. Polygon is one of my favorite L1, L2s out there, right? But I think Immutable X also does have potential because of the space they're in, right? So just want to cover these two real quick in case you guys are wondering why Immutable X dumped. And you know, it doesn't really, I think they will recover, but this is a huge win for Polygon, in my opinion. A big adoption of their new technology, ZK EVM. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Overall, today's a pretty stagnant day. Bitcoin didn't really move. Over the last 24 hours, still up about %. We were above 28,000 before, came back down. It does look like Bitcoin is ready to rip once again. It's consolidated, and this next leg up could take us to 31,000, right? Just got to be patient. But right now, BTC Dominance is definitely gaining strength. So a lot of you guys may have noticed and have asked, why are alts not moving up? Why are alts so weak, right? But sometimes it just happens. It just happens because right now, people are focused on Bitcoin because of all the distrust in banks. Money is flowing in. People are also recognizing Bitcoin is moving the best, so people are converting to Bitcoin once again, adding more Bitcoin to their portfolio. But it always flips. You just have to give it time. But right now, Bitcoin dominance has climbed even more to 46.4%. It's I don't remember the last time it was this high. It's been a while. It's been a while, right? But there you go. There you go. All right, let's do some Q&A. All right, scrolling up here. Let's see. Elon, ABG says, let's go. Elon is getting rockets ready. That is for sure. But, you know, this is seen a little bit as trolling, but I think he honestly means it. I think he does think that the Fed may have gone overboard. So I know we're definitely not going to get a cut on Wednesday, but I do think we could get 0. We'll see. Still scrolling. Still scrolling. Still scrolling here. What do you think about Jack Mallers' interview? I caught bits and pieces. You know, that one guy that was interviewing him was totally clueless. And I don't know why Jack honestly keeps doing interviews in an empty closet. Just do it at his desk or somewhere. I'm sure his crazy mansion house has better rooms, but he likes that closet. But anyways, that guy was just totally clueless. I think he made good arguments about basically you could create more of anything. He was trying to make the point you could create more of anything, but you can't create more Bitcoin. So that makes it scarce, and that makes it different from everything else, and that's exactly right. What do you think about the Fed transaction method called Fed Now? That's basically what crypto was meant to do, and they're going to do it with CBDC. I disagree. That's not really what crypto was meant to do. Bitcoin was not meant to do that. Bitcoin was meant to displace gold, although with the layer 2 solution, Lightning Network, you can definitely make a lot of instantaneous and feeless transactions anywhere, but I think Bitcoin was created to go against fiat and displace gold. Most of the crypto out there is meant for utility. So what that CBDC is really competing against are the stable coins. So I don't think that's actually a big issue, although I think the Fed will want to have more control. They may put more regulations on stable coins and exchanges, right? Because they do want to promote their own, but it certainly does not affect Bitcoin in any way at all. Thoughts on Atom? I still believe in Atom. I still think their reserve security is going to be a big thing once it comes out. So I know there's a little weak recently, but I do like Atom. Troy, I heard Warren Buffett's private jet has been flying around the U.S. to meet with bank executives, and he had meetings with President Biden. What do you think about this? I think, number one, it shows how fearful the banks are. It shows that even Biden himself may be a little fearful, although I don't know what he's going to do. Basically, Fed Chair Powell, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, he's trying to fight inflation. On the other hand, he's trying to make sure all the banks don't fail right under him, right? So he has to protect the banks. That's number one. So he has to put inflation on hold because he has to save all the banks, right? So the fact that Warren Buffett is flying around shows how desperate these guys are. These banks CEOs, they must be really desperate, asking. I don't think they're asking for his opinion or advice. They're asking him for his money. Goldman Sachs was injected with $5 billion from Warren Buffett back in 2008. So I think that's what they're trying to work out. Like, hey, we need to borrow some money. Let's work out a deal. I think that's what's happening. I think Gary Gensler's trying to hack my internet. That happens often to me. He tries to hack my internet all the time, and it just kind of flakes out. But luckily, I have some good internet, so he's not successful. Ed says, my portfolio is 75% Bitcoin, 25% small big caps. Your thoughts? That's perfectly fine. You could be 100% in Bitcoin. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you flipped it the other way and said 75% in alts, then I would say you probably want to beef up to 50% at least. Chen Zhao, what are your thoughts on Exodus wallet? It's a wallet. Exodus now is very different than before, so I don't use it. But before, I was hacked with Exodus, and many people also have. So I kind of stopped using them after that, but I know they have changed. So that's the only thing I can say about it. I mean, that looks like a breakout right there is about to happen. If I had to draw it, I don't know what this is called, a rising pennant. Like something like that. Right, that looks like, that really looks like, and I'm on not 1 hour. That certainly looks like there's a breakout that's about to happen. But, you know, there's a lot more to come, for sure. Thoughts on Arbitrum Trop? Hey, if you get some free tokens, what's not to like? Arbitrum has a ton of TVL. It's the biggest L2 out there. Pure L2, not like a L1, L2 like Polygon. So they have a lot of stuff happening within the space. So this is good. People that get some free token, you know, it may dump right away. It may not. Look at Uniswap. I thought Uniswap, after they airdropped, that it was just go dump to hell. But, you know, a lot of people supported Uniswap, held on their tokens. Then a lot of people made a lot of money when Uniswap airdropped a few years ago. So it could be the same thing with Arbitrum. Melvin, 70% in crypto, 30% in stock, 0% cash. I'm all in. You know, I don't know. I don't know, man. I still think that having cash is the right way. 20, 25, 30% cash. You know, I think that's important in case there is a rainy day, and it allows you to continue DCA. So, but you do you. You do you. No financial advice given here. Someone asked about Near Protocol. I think Near Protocol is good. Has potential. It's like a mini Solana. Very well backed. Early with their DeFi and NFTs and gaming. So they're early. They're early, but still they have a good amount of fans and I should say investors. And their market cap is quite high. 1.7 billion, so they're decent. VeChain is right there too. Stacks is right there too. These are all great projects, and they're not big caps. These are considered mid caps, almost small caps. I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about. Have I covered Caspa? Yes. I'm neutral. Thoughts on Sweatcoin? No thoughts. No thoughts at all. How do you think the market will react if Powell bumps up the interest by 0.25? I think it'll be just no event. Because right now it's predicted there's a 72% chance of 25 basis points. So I don't think the market's going to react at all. They're just going to say, okay. But they're going to really react to what he says during his press conference. During that Q&A section, those reporters going to hammer him on future rate hikes, how high he thinks the target rate should go up to, what he's going to do about the banks and stuff like that. Now, that will be important. But if he announces 0%, market will rally for sure. Norman, appreciate it. Lewis, appreciate it. Oof, that's just bad. That's bad. Greek, appreciate that too. All right, guys, let's call it a night. Overall, banks are still struggling. The banks that call Bitcoin a bubble, some of them have gone under. So the irony there, right? Overall, though, we know that Bitcoin is here to stay. It's maturing, and if it matures in the same way gold matured back in the day in the 70s and 80s, well, prepare for some explosions that will be happening in the future, right? So stay strong, my friends. I will see you guys tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll see where Bitcoin is done. All right, have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.